Good evening. I'd like to read to you the story that I have written a long time ago. It was critically acclaimed by Giyur's review. It's called Giyur. It's based on a true love story. Prologue. This happened at the beginning of our century. My friend Shurik, My friend Shurik and I went on a cruise in the Caribbean. It was a quiet summer evening. It was neither hot nor cold on deck. The weather was heavenly, very much like velvety weather of an Indian summer in Odessa, though it was the end of August. A couple who looked unusual attracted my attention. The woman was especially interesting. She was a tall blonde with blue eyes, a beauty with a typically Russian face. But she was not dressed like a typical Russian. Rather, she looked like a religious Jewish woman, a long skirt, a headdress covering the hair, and despite the summer weather, a long-sleeved blouse. He was a bit shorter, and he wore ordinary modern clothes. All the passengers, myself included, looked at them with interest because they looked so unusual. My friend touched me on the shoulder. "I know the couple you and other passengers are gazing at," he said. "Their life story is most interesting. Let me tell you about them." And he did tell me their story, which was so vivid and rich in detail, and I was so greatly impressed that I decided to write it down. As soon as I got a chance to lay my hands on paper and a pencil, I put the story to paper with almost no changes. Many people to whom I later told the story asked me if I was fond of science fiction. But everything you are going to read about contains nothing imaginary. It is just the pure and simple truth. Star Princess, a multi-desk tourist liner, was heading for islands in the Caribbean. Vladimir, a handsome young man of about 30, tall and of a strong build, descended the upper deck and, squinting at the bright sun, looked admiringly at a group of children splashing in the whirlpool. Getting out of hand in their play, they sprayed him with a shower of drops. Shaking off bits of water, he walked into one of the salons where devotees of card games, chess and checkers, surrounded by fans, were engaged in combat at several tables. Volodya found a vacant chess table and looked around, hoping to find a partner among the fans. A tall, stunning blonde approached the table next to him, where the card gamblers were deeply involved in their game. Her large, light blue eyes, shadowed by dark lashes, and her finely penciled eyebrows took his breath away. Her regular features, light olive skin, smooth curves of her slim waist, her hips and slender legs, all made one think about the brilliance of nature capable of creating such masterpieces. She apparently caught his gaze and, tossing her straw cover plate over her shoulder, turned in his direction. His face flashed a bit of a smile. Volodya did not take his eyes off her, and though he was usually self-confident in his relationships with women, he suddenly lost his usual form and facing her seemed somewhat abashed. "What do you think?" he heard behind him. The question resounded with a definite Odessa accent. Turning around, Volodya met the gaze of a Jewish-looking middle-aged man holding a stack of bills in his hand. His face looked familiar. "You're offering dough?" "I won't refuse," was Volodya's immediate reaction. "And what can I offer in return?" "Just a thank you, nothing else. I've got a lot of this stuff. Can afford to fork out some." "In that case, my answer is, you are welcome. Worth something too. Let's assume our barter transaction worked. As for this beauty you are gaping at, I would offer her everything I have in my pants pocket and even my wallet. But all her pluses look like they would make her a hard nut to crack. Do you mind my sitting next to you?" One second. Do you mind my sitting next to you?" "Of course not, sit down. And your position is clear, but I think it's unlikely you could score with her right off the bat. And you?" "I'm not sure, but I wouldn't start at this end. She is a knockout, about 25 years old, and definitely she is one hot number. She is. And of course knows her worth. This kind, before getting laid, you have to woo with sweet words, and not at this pseudo-intellectual paddock, but at a restaurant where one throws a whole fortune just at the waiters. Well, throwing up your cards, aren't you? In such a case, let's spill a round of cards, will you? They're like women, can bring luck when you are not expecting it. This won't interfere with your admiring the beauty, and let's get acquainted. I'm Simon, and dealer in taxi medallions, by the way. Vladimir, a health professional. Always invite your profession. You don't have to lure patients to your office with their dollars and euros, and nobody compels you to report at that. You have only one thing to do. Just follow the rule. Do not harm. Nothing but no harm. I. No other profession could offer that. Flagging, kadohals, all kinds of chicken shit for gravy, damn it. And not only that, you can lay your hands on women any moment. Can command them to undress and lie down on the couch. I'm not a gynecologist and no attending physician. Oh, and no treatment into the bargain. Well, they were talking Russian, so that to avoid attracting attention to their conversation at times switching over to Yiddish. Volodya, where do you live? In Miami, because been a year since I moved there from New York. And before coming to America, I resided in Odessa for 18 years. I knew right away you are from Odessa. As they say, birds of a feather. Wanted to make sure. I too came from Odessa, a true son of Odessa, but who knows where our roots are coming from, Simon sadly remarked. And I know where from, almost exactly. Oh, from where? Simon got curious. From the Crimea. There once was a Jewish principality called Theodore. Why did you decide that was where your roots originated? Simon asked. Didn't you pay attention to my eyes? Don't you see my eyelids are slightly slanted? There is something Asian about them. Middle Eastern, to be more exact, said Vladimir quite seriously. If I were to judge by your eyes, you could be even a Chinese, a Bashkir or Chukchi. You should not laugh. My family is Shalita. You can often come across it in Israel. Rabbi Zalman Liberov said the word is prefixed to the names of famous rabbis, and in particular to the name of Rabbi Schneerson, who comes from Nikolaev. And this is just 2 hours from Odessa. And I think if you dig deep enough, it will turn out I'm descendant of King David. Damn, Simon exclaimed. And I dare to be sitting while talking to you. Maybe you know of any of his tribes you have descended from, and even from who of his wives? But does it matter, in fact, if each of them is a queen anyway? Better tell me more about yourself. Well, there isn't much to tell, Volodya felt embarrassed. I was born in Odessa, on Komsomolskaya Street, Odessa longest one in the famous Moldovanka, and I think in the famous Moldovanka neighborhood. And I think I was lucky. It was a great place to live, in a city where such good memories were left by Babel, Cliffs, Ilf and Petrov, as well as other prominent citizens of Odessa. Volodya looked at Simon quizzically. What can I say? I do remember Komsomolskaya. It was famous for its blind alley backyards, blooming chestnut trees, and even for communal apartments with wooden rickety verandas, remember? Frankly speaking, I don't at all remember the fountain. However, my friend, you remember the Odessa that no longer had Babylon Yaponchik, its romantics and dreamers like Edward Bagritsky. And these outstanding individuals gave Odessa a special flavor and glorified it to the entire world. Enough of Odessa, suggested Volodya. We're in America, and it is of considerable worth. Share with me what you are doing as a dealer in this world fair of golden calf named dollar. You do amaze me indeed. What a hot shot. Well, I own 6 taxi medallions. When I purchased them, they cost me 75,000 apiece. And how much are they now? 7 times as much. Not bad, Volodya said. And what about you, Volodya? What do you do? Medical equipment. Not bad either. Simon remarked thoughtfully. Nothing to complain about. By the way, Simon, have you ever heard of that Vaco guy, Senya? Young man, reproachfully said Simon. You still throw in some Odessa buzzwords. Can't you say instead of Vaco something like crazy Senya? It sets my teeth on edge, and with your education, it sounds way out in the left field. It will do for a businessman. And what about your language, Simon? Phrases like one hot number, way out in the left field. Frankly speaking, I a whole long way out in the field, in the left field. So what about the senior? One second. So what about the senior? I have heard about him. I have met his dad. He was a thief and was stealing in the daytime and was trading the stolen goods at nights. When Joseph Agron, the Russian godfather in New York, was asked what he thought of Senya, he answered, I don't deal with psychos. Why Senya is on the run now? After he hit a Brighton store, he has been lying low for a while. I heard Senya had no brakes, but how did he get his nickname Crazy Senya? Inherited from his dad. When the Bolsheviks made plans to shoot him and read him his sentence, he managed to spit the judge in the face. No Jew in his sane mind had challenged the Soviet regime before so openly, so dramatically. He was declared insane, and later death penalty was commuted to a nut house. Moldovanka had respect for Senya's death, and even at the nut house, Volodya listened, shuffling and distributing cards, and was looking stealthily at the girl, trying to be discreet. A princess, he thought, pondering a way to make her acquaintance. And suddenly he exclaimed angrily, "Goodness gracious, just to think that such a beauty will fall into somebody else's lap. Why don't you act then? By the way, I noticed she gave us the eye." "Sure, not me. I'm leaving." All of a sudden the beauty approached them and said in Russian, "Hello. My name is Natasha. I'm also from Odessa." Both were startled. Just to think they were spilling the beans, absolutely sure she did not understand a word in Russian, and uttered such a lot of trash. Vladimir was ready to sink into the ground, and she continued matter-of-factly, "Sorry, I did not introduce myself at once. I was listening to your memories of our beloved Odessa with great interest. I noticed you were planning to leave, and it felt like I was saying goodbye to Odessa. Let's talk a little more." Volodya was speechless. Simon was not taken aback, however, and exclaimed, "We will be happy to. Well, sorry I have to go right now. Let's meet at 8 at the open buffet," Natasha suggested. Both agreed. At 8 p.m. they met at the restaurant. Simon took leave soon after dinner. Left alone, they talked. Volodya asked, "Tell me a little about yourself." "I studied in England at a casino school, training to become a dealer. Then I went to work for a cruise company in Miami. By the way, I saw you a few times at South Beach. And where exactly did you see me?" "At the Tea for Two cafe. I often go there with friends. And imagine, I was dreaming of meeting you, but I never thought that I might meet you again. And there you are. I have met you here." After her confession, uneasiness finally left Volodya, and emboldened he said, "Natasha, you're so beautiful. I can't take my eyes off you." "Thank you. You already said that when playing cards with Simon, and thought I didn't understand Russian. It was so interesting to listen to what you were saying. I was hanging up on your every word, and was afraid of only one thing, that you would leave and I wouldn't have a chance to talk to you." Her sincerity excited Volodya. He felt a hard wave engulfing him. He clung to her flaming lips, and she answered his kiss, pressing her body against his, aflame with the same fire. "I want you. I want all of you." "Me too. Let's go to my cabin." And she pulled him along. Later, leaning back on his pillow and hardly managing to calm his breathing, Vladimir whispered, "Natasha, you are the girl from my childhood. I've been looking for you all my life. I have finally found you, and I will never part with you. I was dreaming of such wife. Will you marry me, Natasha?" "Just like that, at once?" Natasha exclaimed. Her voice sounded full of joy, doubt, and puzzlement. "Yes, at once. What's there to wait for? Don't you see we were made for each other?" Natasha was silent. "Why don't you answer?" "Well, you probably promised your mom to get married to a Jewish girl, and I'm not Jewish. But you know, I grew up in a Jewish family." What do you mean?" "What do you mean?" "I know it sounds odd, but I will tell you everything, and you will understand. We have only one Jew in our family, my grandmother Leah. During the Second World War, she volunteered for frontline duty. She fell prisoner and found herself at a concentration camp for war prisoners. It was a general-purpose camp. It held many people of various nationalities and ethnicity, not only Jews. She was a stunning beauty. I saw her picture taken when she was very young. Her beauty saved her. Though I think you understand how horrible it is to be a beauty in a concentration camp. She was raped so many times. One day, when a group of German soldiers were going to have some fun with her, an officer entered the barracks. He saw what was going on and took the beauty with him and thus saved her life. She worked as his housekeeper and he treated her well. One day, when the camp soldiers were busy shooting civilians, Granny happened to be next to the terrible place of execution, and by miracle she managed to take away a small blonde Russian girl. The officer turned to be a decent man. He allowed the child into his home. The child, a Russian, was later to become my mom. Leah, my granny raised her. Granny's husband perished at the front. They had no time to have children, and my mom remained the only child in the family. She grew up, got married, and then I was born. But the marriage did not work, and mom returned to Granny's home. And later, when I was already 14 years old, she remarried and moved to the north with a new family. And I decided to stay in Odessa with Granny. This is how it happened that my dearest, my only grandmother, Leah, first brought up my mom, her daughter, and then me. So in fact, I grew up in a Jewish family. I have many close friends who are Jewish, and all my relatives too, through Granny Leah, because I have no others, are also Jewish. And although I'm not Jewish by blood, I feel Jewish inside and shaded after I pause. I love to paint Easter eggs on Hanukkah. That's so exciting. Volodya left. What a puzzle head indeed. Hanukkah is a celebration of light. It is celebrated with candles in the menorah. And this is a winter holiday. The Jewish Passover is celebrated in spring, and the Jews do not paint eggs. There are eggs on the festive tables, but they are quite a different symbol. Natasha looked confused. You see, I'm a little versed in national traditions and ancient customs, because in Russia, most people didn't observe them. So I grew up absolutely non-religious and never thought about it. But I think that a family should stick to one religion. I once read a story about English King Henry VIII, who quarreled with Rome for his beloved's sake, and even introduced a new religion in his country as a result. He did it for love. I am also ready for a lot of love. You will see. Natasha smiled, and Volodya thought she looked more like a mischievous teenager than a girl of marriageable age. You are right, Volodya agreed. I also believe the family should have one face. It became a tradition between them. They had many discussions, sometimes disagreed, even argued about something, rejoiced at every meeting, enjoyed every smile, each hand touch, and soon realized, yes, they should always be together. They were destined for it. A few months passed. All this time, Natasha and Volodya lived together in his apartment in Miami. They already looked like a small, friendly family. One day, Natasha said, Volodya, I feel like I have known you a long time. Me too. I even think I have seen you somewhere, as if you are the girl from my childhood. I feel the same, Volodya. I think I understand what you mean. We are soulmates, but I would like to tell me more what you mean when you say that I'm the girl from your childhood. I will try to explain, Volodya said. It began in Odessa, and I have since always wanted to write a story about it, and I will do it, maybe not even a story, but a novel. I'm now only shaping it up, feeling my way to the master plot, moving carefully in small baby steps. To make a long story short, one day, when I was in my first grade, on my way from school, I saw an adult girls my future story heroine in a gazebo in one of Odessa yards. She was quietly sitting there eating cherry dumplings. I remember being amazed that such a beauty was absorbed in eating dumplings so enthusiastically and so early in the morning. Noticing a first grader's confused look, she gave me a smile. And I have remembered that smile for life. Even my parents did not smile at me the way that girl did. And I started dreaming that when I grew up, I would meet a girl like her. I was imagining the girl growing up somewhere with the same smile on her face, waiting to meet me one day too. All these years I have been dreaming of the girl, and I was sure that sooner or later, after some 15-20 years, I will meet her and tell her, you know, I have seen you somewhere before. They looked at each other with happy tears in their eyes. Did you have someone before me? Asked Natasha one day. Yes, I did have a girlfriend. We met for 3 years. And why did you break up? Natasha asked. She didn't want to take Giyur, Volodya replied. She didn't love you then. And would you take Giyur for me, for the man you loved? Of course I would. There is no question about it. I believe God is one for all, and the rest is all about conventions and traditions. Smiling, Natasha added, and the Jewish traditions have come to us from ancient times. They are so very interesting and rich. I definitely will get to know them more closely. And she kept her word. One day, when she was out on the street, she saw some young Jewish guys offering passers-by to pray with phylacteries. She approached them and asked them to put the phylacteries on her. The guys told her, smiling, that only men could wear phylacteries. Natasha, tefillin, that only men could wear tefillin. Natasha asked them about what was her greatest concern. Where could I meet with the rabbi? Go to the synagogue Pine Tree Chabad House, that is on 41st and Lincoln Road. And better come in the evening to catch the rabbi during the evening Mariv prayers. Thanking the guys, she went on to the synagogue. She found there were only men inside. She was offered to wait in the female quarters. After the prayer, she approached the rabbi and told him her story. He listened attentively, without even interrupting her. When Natasha finished her story, he asked, "What is attracting you to our faith?" "I believe there should be one religion in family," said Natasha. "I suppose you are very fond of this man?" asked the rabbi. "Yes, very much," said Natasha. "Is your grandmother alive?" "Yes, she is. She lives in Odessa." Let your fiancé see your grandmother. Wait for what she says, and then come back to see me. Volodya went to his native Odessa. He found a home on the promenade near the Duke Monument. A pleasant-looking elderly woman with a welcoming smile on her face opened the door. Over tea, sitting across him, she peered into his face. Then, without taking her eyes off him, she asked, "A Yiddish Bucher, a Jewish guy?" Volodya nodded. They kept silent for a while. Then the woman put her warm hand on his arm and said, "Now I can die in peace. Be happy." Epilogue. Many years later, I met Vladimir and Natasha in Miami. I was spending my vacation there, and every evening was strolling along Columbus Avenue. And one day I saw the couple again. Volodya and Natasha were slowly walking towards me. They were surrounded by children. One girl of about 12, was walking next to Natasha, another around 8 was clinging to Volodya's hand, and one more, around 3 years old, was sitting on his shoulders. They looked absolutely happy and loving. Happiness was just walking. The end. I hope you like the story. Like it, click likes, subscribe to my channel. There will be more to come.